In the ring we stand tall, words of blades that never fall, debated warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. In the ring we stand tall, words of blades that never fall, debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean, spirited, mind sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night, join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance in this arena. There's no chance to escape the fight by lore. Dive in deep in the search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance in this arena. There's no chance to escape the fight by lore. Dive in deep in the search for more.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. If you can, put a like in the chat or display a one. I'm hoping that you guys can pick me up on my headset here. But again, good to be with you guys on this next gen training. All right, sound clear and great. Appreciate that. Good to be here for next gen. Waiting for my partner as always, the coach to be here in the building tonight, and so I'll be waiting for him as well. Make sure that he can get on. But on the road, so you can see from my background, this is coming from my hotel room, and so I'm leaving. I catch a flight tomorrow night back into New Jersey, where I'll only be there until the weekend, and then I got a 6 a.m. flight out Monday morning, and I'll be back in the same place next week. So, this is a, different experience for me, a new season where, certainly being on the road, but, still trying to be engaged, still trying to offer content, regardless of where I find myself, and to, certainly share with this community, with the Sparta community, on ways that one can be healthy, have, training, different first starting with your mindset. When we started the show, back in May, we talked a lot about mindset. Now we're going into a more physical and health related space where we talked about training. So we had some initial videos on training, and then we talked a little bit about diet, nutrition, things of that nature. We're going to go into and delve into a little bit more tonight, and certainly for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be in the section dealing with your physical health, and then we'll see where the show goes after that. But certainly as you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button as you come in. Certainly appreciate the algorithm. We're just a couple subscribers away from being monetized, and so very excited to help this platform to get to that milestone. And so hopefully that's a little better for everybody. Hopefully we'll be able to announce that very soon. where certainly we'll have the monetization and then eligible for super chats and the like. But again, good to be with you guys here on the show. So again, as we always like to start out the shows, I want to find out about how you're doing with your pies. Okay, your physical, your emotional, your intellectual, and your spiritual. How are you doing? With those certain aspects. So again, this is an opportunity for people to check in, share their pies, share their experiences. Certainly as this week, and this has actually been a pretty tough week on many fronts. Certainly we've seen a lot of death this week. Unfortunately, we first started with Malcolm Jamal Warner. If you know him as Theo from the Cosby Show, died in an unfortunate swimming accident at age 54. So again, it's certainly a reminder that nothing is you can take nothing for granted. He was vacationing, and your life can be taken from you certainly at any time. So certainly it's a reminder for us to live life while you have it. So again, rest in peace to certainly Malcolm Jamal Warner. Then we heard the death of Ozzy Osbourne. Again, famous rock star. Certainly was known for his band. Certainly most famous known for the theme for Iron Man, or the song Iron Man that was used in the Iron Man franchise for Marvel. Certainly him and his wife Sharon had a very popular reality show some years back. And but Ozzy certainly known for doing some pretty interesting things. Apparently he bit the head off a bat, from what I understand. And his wife, certainly she had some controversy when she was on a talk show. So again, regardless of what you feel about them, certainly they've been impactful. If you've been in certainly a lot of these spaces, you at least know of them if you didn't necessarily appreciate their music. But I believe his band was Black Sabbath, if I understand. But again, the theme from Iron Man, which is certainly in my playlist, certainly an iconic song, and certainly a fitting song for the Iron Man movie franchise for Marvel back in 2008. Then just flipping to another note, we lost Chuck Mangione. Now, again, a lot of people may not know who that is, but certainly if you grew up in the 70s, if you're into jazz, certainly Chuck Mangione, he came out with a hit called "Feeling Good." And certainly if you just listen to the first few bars of it, you'll certainly recognize what that song is. And so again, a very prolific jazz. I forget the instrument. I don't know if it was a clarinet or sax, or I forget, or trumpet. I forget the exact instrument that he played. But certainly, again, that song was iconic. And one thing I remember about him was he had an interview where he was asked, don't you get tired of people when you're at shows? Because again, he's done a lot of music. Again, a lot of music which you may not have heard of. But he was asked, don't you get tired of playing the same song or being asked for that Feeling Good song? It was basically as a one-hit wonder for him. And he had a very well-rounded response to it, and basically saying that, look, that song paid for all my kids' college educations. The royalties that he got from that one song did a lot for his family. So again, so he never gets tired because he recognizes certainly what that song did for his family. And so definitely, yeah. So jazz, for the flugelhorn and trombone and the trumpet were his main instruments. Thank you for sharing that. And so certainly, again, a very prolific, who just passed also this week. And then certainly the big, thank you for sharing that. But the big news, obviously, again, regardless of what you feel about him, regardless of certainly his actions, certainly in recent years, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, certainly, arguably, you can make an argument that he's on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers. Full stop. Ric Flair, Andre the Giant, whoever else you want to put up there. Some people may say Randy Savage or some other titleists. But I know obviously he was there at the beginning when wrestling was brought from its territorial days into mainstream, with Hulkamania. and everything that went around along with that. An iconic career in the ring for multiple promotions. Obviously, his really helped put WWF at the time and eventually WWE to really put that on the map. And so, so definitely he did a lot there, but then he went to WCW, was famous there, came back to WWE, and became successful there. So again, iconic wrestler, had some controversies in his last years of his life, that I won't necessarily go into here, but certainly, again, you may have mixed feelings, especially in this last political season. Some of his actions at that point, but again, not here to talk about those things, but certainly just noting that certainly the sport of professional wrestling, and if you're into like just media in general, he was a big figure, big following. I owned a Hulkamania shirt for many years, and so certainly I was one of those early guys who was influenced by say your prayers, train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins. I was one of those original guys at the time. And so this week just lets you know that again, life is short. You don't know when your days are coming. And from what I understand, Terry, he died, I believe he had a cardiac arrest or something like that at age 71. So again, we had a death at 54. We had a guy at 71. I think Chuck Langieri might have been the older of the two of the group. Shout out to Mariana Constantine for being here tonight. And so you never know when your days are numbered. So certainly take care of yourself when you're young. Take care of yourself when you're old, and make sure that you appreciate the life you have, because you just never know when your days are going to be up. And take care of your body as well. Certainly that's a big takeaway. But certainly the coaches in the building tonight. So first and foremost, sir, I was going to go into my pies, but then I just kind of went on this just to kind of get the news out there. But just want to give you the opportunity to check in and to see how things are going on your end. So.
What's up, man? Have you spoke about brother Malcolm Jamal Warner?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just real quick, man. Salute to Bram, man. He was like a little brother to me, man. When I used to watch the Cosby Show, man, I used to be like, Theo, go get it together. You know what I'm saying? Just following his career, man. Salute to him, man. Everything he's done, accomplished, and his family, man. Prayers go up. But I don't know, man. I was calm until, I would try to go in on the link, and then the link took me to where it was on another page. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What's going on? Because we did some things on Monday and connected it, and it still ain't acting right. But yeah, so I got the second link, and because the link you sent me is the one that sort of sent it to my restream. I'm like, and I was like, man, what do I do? And then I saw the other link. So yeah, I mean, I'm just, I guess my nerves is high, but my pie's whole. If I was just to sum it up, I don't see any pieces of my pie missing right now. My pie's pretty whole. So yeah, I'm just winding down the summer, man. Just counting the days down, getting ready for the big season, but yeah, excited. I already got my already ready to go. My NFL ticket, the little YouTube TV ticket. Yeah, it's pretty cool. 4 games at one time. They usually have them all over, but yeah.
I heard that.
Real on Chuck Mangione. I forget the name of the song, but where I
Feeling
grew up
good. Feeling good.
No, but it's not that song, but it's a song, another song that he composed that when school is out in Louisville, Kentucky, they play that song every year to announce the schools are out. I forget it. I saw it on the news today. It wasn't a Feeling Good song. It was another. I'm like, wow, that was pretty interesting to see. And I remember seeing him in concert when I was probably about 15. I don't know how I looked up and got some tickets, but he was pretty cool, man. He had a nice little rhythm to him. I've always been into jazz. Probably when I started really paying attention to jazz, because it was an outside concert, and he pulled it off pretty good, man. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely very talented or whatnot. Wish he might have been known for more of his works and whatnot, but he certainly put a lot of love and passion to what he did. But again, he certainly had the big song, and then, like I said, the song that you had just mentioned as well. But certainly known for much more than that. Maybe worth just getting an album of his and just listening to the whole album, so you can get a big a feel for the guy, not just the one or two songs that he came out with that he's known for. But as far as on my end, like I said, my pods are pretty good. Obviously being away for these weeks, and I got a couple more weeks. Like I said, I come home tomorrow, and I fly back out early Monday morning. So certainly, let's just say my in terms of my physical, certainly is being stressed in certain ways, just with the travel and everything, and also my lack of, quite frankly, my intimacy with my wife. I'm missing some key nutrients and vitamins there that I look to hopefully make up for this weekend. But this is just in this period, we may have to take more aggressive action, so to speak, but to compensate for the deficit here. But it's definitely different being away, and certainly I miss being around my wife. And I just told her today that she's probably the only person I don't mind spending the whole day with, or certainly days with, and never get tired of her being around. And so certainly this time just being away, you start thinking about that, and so definitely missing her. I'll be back on Friday night, and hopefully we can enjoy the weekend, and then and while until this project kind of gets in the back burner. But outside of that, everything else is good. Spiritual, intellectual. Obviously, I'm learning a lot down here about this new automation and project that's going on. So certainly it's a learning experience, and eating some good food. We went to this Mexican restaurant tonight. It was a little hole in a wall type of place, not very big, but it's great food. I mean, glad we kind of stumbled across it after we tried to go to a couple other places, but the Google sent us there and the places were closed. So I just said, let's just go here, and we found the gym that we'll definitely revisit again, certainly when we come back down here again. So all those things said, everything is good, but yeah, man, let's get into this. So again, the topic tonight again, how do you deal with when you have these weight loss plateaus? And for a lot of people, weight loss is a major goal of those. Although I may want to touch on, add a little bit more nuance to that, because certainly that's never been my issue. That's never been my journey. I was always in a place where I wanted to gain weight. Again, I was very slim. Again, when I graduated college, I was 147 pounds, and coming out of high school, I was slimmer still, at being over 6'2". So for me, gaining weight was almost my thing. So I could never relate to the person who says, "Oh, I just want to lose some weight." And then you got the people who they get to a point where they may lose some weight initially, but then they hit these plateaus, and you have to be mindful of what those plateaus are, and maybe some strategies, some suggestions on how to overcome those. Again, we're not experts here. Again, this is two bald opinions who may share some information with you guys that you might be able to benefit from, and certainly if you can, that certainly be great. But again, supermarket approach here. We're just offering our opinions and advices on things that has certainly worked, for us, or certainly things that you may want to consider and do more research on to see if in fact this will work for you. So with that being said, just what are your initial thoughts, Coach, on people, whether you're young or old? Certainly on weight management in general. What are some of the things that you may have seen that have helped people to lose weight, or if they hit that plateau? Just some initial thoughts from you in terms of how they overcome some of those plateaus in weight loss.
Man, that's an interesting question, because I'm gonna put it in two compartments, right? For myself, I've always had this thing. Okay, as long as my stomach it does not intrude over, when I look down, I can still see my life. When I look down, I always had that in my mind. Every time I look down, I got to make sure I ain't got to go search for them, because my stomach is flat enough, and I always maintained that, right?
Right.
And I've always been a solid little type of kid growing up. People used to compare me to Bam Bam. Remember Bam Bam, the little strong little
Yeah.
kid?
From the
I had a
Flintstones, right?
body like that growing up, in a sense. I wasn't, built like that, but I did a lot of things that required for me to run, jump, climb, pull myself up, monkey bar king, you know, merry-go-round sled. So I've always had that sense like stay in some type of shape. Then most of my life I played sports. And even once I got out of the military, your activity is not as much. I played basketball quite a bit. I ate, maybe 2 meals a day. I wasn't the type to sit down and just eat 2 plates and fill up extra and no. But I've sort of always I did it by default before I actually once I became a veteran. Like I said, veterans the VA provides you with so much stuff. They they have excuse me, they have programs for weight loss management. So as you get into your 40s, 50s, they have programs where they enroll you in so you can sort of understand the importance now of reading labels, learning portion sizes, learning calories, things like that. So they have programs. And I was so caught up in it, I went through the program twice, you know what I'm saying? Because they give me materials and I use the materials in my own life. And sometimes I just like to hear the reinforcement of something I may have missed or just to hear it over like, okay, let me do this and try this. And then, even me and my wife, she gets down here. She's a treadmill junkie. Me, I got my Palantir. I used to ride faithfully when I first got it. Then I slowed down. Then I started having some other issues with my joints and stuff. So got a rowing machine. And like I said, right now, I went to the doctor like a month in between each other. I was like 233. Then I was 226. So I was like, okay, that's a nice little difference, but I'm gonna have to weigh myself again. I have a scale, but I don't really have it function. I just said I'm gonna maintain it, and I would think that I know it's important to keep my weight down because that's really helped me just being able to stay mobile,
1 pound a day.
uh, get up and out of bed, uh, just you know taking taking care of things around the house. Sometimes it requires me to do certain things. So just being mobile and I'm like you, man. And I'll shut up, man. When it comes to my wife, we got a 24-hour clock. You
Mhm.
know, she works from home. I'm at home, so we can be around each other. We have I don't know if during the day if I'm not asleep, we probably got 4 or 5 hours to interact while she's working, and then after work, my wife's an early bird, so I get to play all night. What's this? Yeah, she 9 o'clock, 9:15. She's out.
Wow.
So I'm moving around, messing around in my basement. You know what I'm saying, and just staying active in a sense. I like clean up and of course I tend to my dogs, but yeah, man, exercise and weight management is very important, man, especially as we age. It prevents a lot of health issues from occurring, or it manages certain things, levels, because, I'm sure you get your blood work now and you're starting to see, like, Mr. Bennett ain't that 8 cylinder no more. It might be a 6 cylinder, but it's still got a lot of power to it. So, yeah, man, take care of yourself too, man, because you do a lot. And I know you seem like this movement here was like, oh man, and you missing your family and stuff, man. But it's amazing how every time you come on here, man, the last couple of times, man, your shirt is matching your decor in your room.
That's
What you
now
you
playing. I just pack. I try to have something brown, something gray, something blue. Something borrowed, something new. I don't know. I
it
just
looks
kind of
perfect
throw.
with your
I
background,
just
man.
I just I just throw some things on, and then I got this complexion. You know what I mean. So the complexion certainly goes with the
Yeah, all that
decor as
blend
well.
in very well.
That caramel color there. So I guess it all blends together. But certainly some good points there. that you've shared. And I think, obviously, with me, I like to be prepared, especially on topics like this. I like to have, notes, and I like to have just different perspectives that I like people to certainly consider as we go through this. And but everyone talks about weight loss, and I never like that term because I think when you talk about weight loss, it can oftentimes introduce a lot of things into a person's psyche and mindset that are unhealthy. They may take some steps that might be unhealthy in the pursuit of that weight loss. And so my thing is always about weight management. And I also like using the term weight management is because, like I said, you may want to gain weight. I mean, there's certainly a population of people. I know I was one of those scrawny guys. Like I said, I wasn't blessed with the mesomorphic physique of a Coach Ferg. So for me, I wanted to kind of get to where he was. And for a lot of years, I just couldn't put the weight on, at least not through, conventional means. So, and once I started getting into strength training and whatnot, things started to change. And I had to build slowly over the years. So again, I'm 235 myself right now, but again, from a college graduation weight of 147. So, you're talking certainly a significant amount of weight over time that, but for the most part, still I'm able to carry it pretty well. So really it's about, what you're looking for. You're looking for that balance when it comes to how you look, also how you feel, also your health. So all those things matter. So if David in the back, if you want to share the slide, so so we can go through these. And I want to look at before just making a recommendation about something, but I want to cover some things that might be that for people to consider when they talk about this idea of, well, I want to lose weight, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And there's certain things that you have to really factor in, what your lifestyle, what your goals are, and not the fact that not everyone's going to look the same. We talked about this last week. Not everyone looks the same. There's so many different levels of what fitness even means. So you could be a sumo wrestler, you could be a football player, you can be a lot of different people, or a long distance runner, or a sprinter. There's a lot of different body types out there. And the other thing, what I also try to tell people is, don't fall in love with an ideal of what someone else looks like. And you say, well, I want to look like them. That can be inspirational to a point, but you have to recognize what your body is. Some are tall, some are short, some the body proportions, or some have longer limbs, longer legs, or shorter legs for that matter. You can't control the width of your clavicles. So these are things that at the end of the day, you have to take some comfort to understand what looks better for you. That if you want to get to some people, I think that, if they lose too much weight, they don't look good. So I don't mind people who are a little thicker, a little curvier with their physique. Some guys are just built blockier. You can still look good. You can still be healthy with that kind of physique, but don't get this kind of role. So, oh, well, I need to be, because BMI said I need to be a certain weight based on my height or my sex, that I have to be a certain thing. Be in a way that you want this combination of things. So I made this kind of a diagram a few years ago when I was doing a presentation. So obviously, the three main things we're looking at health, which is the absence of disease, illness, or sickness. That's what health is in a nutshell. All right. The absence of sickness, injury, and disease. So everybody wants to be healthy. Then everybody should be fit. But again, fit is relative to tasks, relative to what it is that you have to do. And so not everyone's going to be fit for the same tasks. Again, a football player, offensive lineman, is going to weigh 330 pounds. Obviously, he's going to be in a different position than a marathon runner. So again, it's a different level of fitness, but you want to be able to have a certain level of ability to do certain tasks on a regular basis. So being fit, certainly for the things that are important, even it could be just playing with your kids after work, throwing a ball around and not getting gassed because you're not in shape to be able to play with your kids for long periods of time. That could be certainly a goal worth shooting for. And then lastly, again, body composition. I don't focus so much on weight loss. Really, where I tend to steer the conversation is towards body composition. How do you look? Because I used to tell women this when I used to train, had some women clients for a time. I told him, asked him a question. It's like, look, if you didn't lose a pound of body weight, but you could fit into a dress you've been looking to get into or some jeans you were looking to get into for some time back, would you care? And all of them said no. So my thing is, it's not about the body weight. It's about the body composition. Muscle is from a area perspective smaller and leaner than body fat is. And so you take a 165-pound man with say 10-15% body fat versus a 165-pound man with 20-25% body fat. The heavier the guy with the larger body fat is going to look bigger. The leaner guy, he's going to look slimmer. So it doesn't matter what the body weight is. So everyone talks about, I just want to lose these extra 5 pounds. Well, what if you gain 5 pounds of muscle, but in gaining that 5 pounds of muscle, you shed some fat, body fat. So again, you're still going to look even better in the clothes that you're wearing, or in, like I said, you'll look better when you see yourself in the mirror. So I don't focus so much on weight loss. If anything, I would say if it's anything to lose, I would say excess body fat. And so what I want to get into is what are some of the things that lead to body fat accumulation? What are some of the factors that a person needs to look into when dealing with body fat loss, not just weight loss? And I'll talk about this in detail because unfortunately what I'm also seeing today is, like I said, when people obsess about the scale, oftentimes they're going to go to aids and remedies and solutions that may not be the healthiest for them long term. And I've seen some of this stuff up close. And so, I want people to at least be educated and mindful about some of these things, what's going on in the body, and what are some things to watch for, to do more research on, some things to consider. All right. What is going on with excess fat accumulation, and what are some things you could possibly do about it to help you combat that? So, but this just overall diagram here, you're kind of looking for the sweet spot in the middle, the intersection of body composition, fitness, and health. An offensive lineman doesn't care that he's over 25% body fat. He really doesn't care. He probably needs it in order to play his position. And so, and being healthy is a great thing, but if you're not fit to really do anything, if you're kind of weak and frail, if you don't have any real strength to you, then that can be something limiting as well. Or you could be that really skinny guy like I was, and just looking for a better body composition, to look better, to wear clothes that fit you. I used to have to buy a 38 long suit, which is not easy to find. But when I graduated college, going for job interviews and, looking to get my career started, I was limited because even a 40 long was too big. And so, so these are things that you have to be mindful of, that not everybody wants. It's not about just weight loss. And one of the things that I've tried to do over the years is break people just from that mentality of losing weight. There's more things besides losing weight that you need to get a little bit more nuanced about before you really start making some changes in terms of what's there. So so just moving with the slides, if you can go, can I go to the? Okay, here we go. You got something to say, sir? Before I go on?
Yeah, I was.
Go ahead.
The fact with this diagram, you made a great point about how all of those things have to intertwine with each other to sort of to get your best results and your best outcome. So, yeah, it's important to know that, all of these things are very important to your weight management, whether you want to build muscle, you want to get in better condition. I remember the military has to me, has the best situation to sort of solve it in a sense, because the military already has the BMI. I guess they have a sort of on the national scale. They have, for my height, I was supposed to weigh 189 pounds. I didn't weigh 189 pounds coming out of high school, but I had an 18 and a half inch neck. So they do the tape measure. I would always have to get taped. My waist was always, on point. They're like, oh man, your waist is a 32 or 34. But they measured my thighs, my calves, my arms, my neck. They're like, man, but you exceed the numbers. And on the average, they would put a guy that's right at 182 pounds, 89 pounds, and put him next to me. It's like a boy and a man in a sense, especially when I was young,
Right.
when my muscles was really popping out. But it was interesting. So that's like, oh man, you passed with flying colors. The fact that they would use a tape measure. So the military today is a little different. Now people are actually a little overweight because the standard for conditioning and being in good shape is sort of watered down. So yeah, most people go to the gym and they really don't have a plan. They just start working out, and sometimes they overdo it or overdo one thing and not do enough to balance out the other part. Because I've seen dudes with buff bodies with little baby calves and legs.
Hmm.
So it's important to understand that all three, and your body composition should balance itself out, and your fitness levels will depend on how much your energy inserting and health. Just make sure you have a healthy back. Just make sure you don't cramp up and you're getting your fluids in, and make sure you staying hydrated before you work out. You don't just get hydrated. When during the workout, you stay hydrated before the workout to prevent cramps and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Good points. Good points. All right. So I want to go to the first slide. Want to deal with this idea of, okay, so again, main focus tonight on people that looking to lose some weight, but they may hit some plateaus. And how you kind of get past those, or where do you even start if you're interested in fat loss or weight loss in general, understanding these basic concepts, all right, of where it starts, what kind of targets, how much should I be eating on a regular basis, right? So again, you have two things that really factor into a weight loss situation. So the first one is your basal metabolic rate. So this is the energy expenditure when you're still awake. It's the minimum metabolic rate needed to keep your lungs, heart, brain, and circulation working. All right. So again, this is, if you did nothing, if you stayed in bed all day, pretty much, how many calories do you need for the body to be able to sustain itself at its current size without either wasting, burning body fat or burning muscle. All right. So again, so that's something that people need to start with. Do you know what that is? All right. So start there. And then there's also a resting metabolic rate, which is similar. But again, you can have some low level tasks. So just getting up, walk around your house or going to the bathroom. So the main difference between the BMR and the RMR is, again, when you're testing your BMR, you're fully rested. When you're testing your RMR, there's a little bit of movement when you're doing it. All right. So again, so that's going to be a start. And knowing what that is a good basis and foundation for where you should start targeting some of your goals in terms of where you want to go. So again, how do you calculate it? Here's a long formula here. Now, again, you don't have to necessarily worry about the formulas pretty much. There are websites that you can go to get your basal metabolic rate measured. All right. So again, in fact, I had one earlier. Let me see if I can bring it back up in the meantime, because I had it up on my other computer, but then I switched to this one before the show because I was worried about the stream struggling. But if you look up BMR calculator, so I'll just go to this first one since it came up, and I'll just share my screen. So if you guys can see my screen, Coach, can you see my screen?
No.
You can't see it?
Is it the one with the chart with the guy eating the pizza? That's what you're
No.
saying?
So I was trying to get another one here. Let me see if I can get it to share here. View tab, calculator.net. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Share window. Let me share that instead. Let's see. Is that it? No, that's a different. Okay, what about now? Can you see it?
Screen share. Try presentations. No, still can't see.
Let me try this one more time. So I topped this presentation off. Try this one last time. Chrome
Yes.
tab, BMR calculator, and share that. All right, can you see it now?
No, sir.
Interesting. It's not all right. So David, if you give me some help here for some reason, it's not allowing me to share this particular screen. But the bottom line is you can go to just look up BMR calculator and it will give you what it is for men and for women. So there's different calculators based on that, and they'll give you basically what your BMR is. So for me, if I were to do mine, I think I just did it. Mine is about 2,600 calories. That's
Okay.
that's like the minimum that I
Minimum
need
you can have. Yeah.
to maintain my body as is 2,600 calories. So
Okay.
again, that's not drastic. Now, for a
No.
lot of people, they're saying they just stop eating, which is never a
Mm-mm.
good idea.
No.
And so I've seen people go on less than 1,000 calories a day. Nobody
Yeah.
would even would do that, at least not a health professional anyway.
No.
But you see people taking these drastic actions to cut down on calories, and so that's a bad way to do it. So again, start here, understanding what your thresholds are first before you would try to embark on a weight loss journey. Get your numbers together, and then the next slide. Okay, so again, how do you raise it? Because the idea is raising your basal metabolic rate helps you in that weight loss journey. At some point, you're going to have to create a caloric deficit. One of the ways you can do that is by raising your resting BMR. You're raising your metabolic rate. So a few ways you can do that, especially if you're talking about weight loss, increasing your BMR. The big one is obviously through strength training. Building muscle is a great way to raise your resting rate because those muscles are biologically expensive. The most expensive organs in your body are your organs, your heart, your liver, because those things run 24/7, whether you do anything or not. If you build muscle, if you're sleeping, your muscles aren't really working that hard. The only time the muscles work hard is if they're put under a physical stress, like running or lifting weights or things of that nature. But the brain and the kidneys and the heart and the liver, those things are running continuously. So those are the biggest caloric expenditures. But certainly adding muscle to your frame will raise your rested metabolic rate because again, it takes certain nutrients in order to maintain that muscle. So you definitely want to, if you're hitting a plateau and losing weight, you have to ask yourself. And I know Mandrell, he raised the point in his chat that for a lot of people, they're so concerned about burning fat, but they never focus on building muscle. All right. If you really want to amp up your natural fat burning, add some muscle to your frame. Not only will it help you in terms of raising your BMR, but probably it's going to is probably going to look better also when you add some muscle size on. You want to be able to do that. So again, increasing muscle, eating foods with spices. Again, you know how you get that hot, raising your overall body temperature, eating spicy foods, but again, not too much. You don't want to create an ulcer. And then also caffeine because that also tends to speed up your metabolism. Green tea is also another aid that helps to increase your basal metabolic rate by increasing your metabolic rate overall. So again, those kind of things are good ways you can certainly raise your BMR. All right, from where it is. But if you don't have a lot of muscle, then again, your BMR is going to lower. And that's unfortunately a lot of times what I see with people who go on these drastic diets and lose a lot of weight because muscle is expensive to have. It is hard to build, and it's the first thing to go. And unfortunately, with a lot of people, when they lose weight, they lose muscle first. And so that is something that you must guard against. I know a lot of people who go on these long extended fasts, whether it be for spiritual reasons, especially as a Christian during Lent. I see a lot of people fasting for 40 days and they talk about, yeah, I lost all this weight, but you lost a lot of muscle. And what happens is that is going to lower your basal metabolic rate. So then once you start eating again at the levels you were before, You can't eat muscle, or you can't eat your way to muscle. Muscle has to be built. And so a lot of times when you go back to eating what you did before, it's the weight that you gain back is not going to be muscle. It's going to be body fat. So what you did when you went on that fast, you lost muscle, and then when you come off the fast, you increase body fat. So again, so I'm not a fan of anybody doing these drastic measures, these exotic diets, or taking these supplements that foster drastic weight gain or caloric deficit, because you're going to put yourself into a spot where you lose body muscle. And again, once it's lost, you have to do a lot to build it back. So again, I never encourage anybody to sacrifice their muscle when they're trying to lose body fat. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to you have to be able to maintain that muscle mass, because that's certainly a major driver in your BMR. So again, but a lot of people eat away muscle when they drastically restrict their eating. So that's one thing to keep in mind. What things are you doing to raise your metabolic rate, your basal or resting metabolic rate? If you're not doing some of these activities, you need to maybe rethink what you're doing and take another approach. And definitely when it comes to strength training, that is a specific discipline. Strength training isn't yoga, even though I know a lot of people like yoga or like walking or Pilates. Those things will not build muscles the same way that strength training does. It will not add a lot of muscle to your frame. Now, again, if you never worked out before in your life, push-ups and sit-ups and body squats, those things will certainly build muscle initially. But then your body can't continue unless you're genetically gifted, like Coach here, because you said back in the day, all you used to do was push-ups and sit-ups and things like that when you were a kid, and you built muscle just fine until you got into maybe high school or whatever, when you started to put the weights in and started adding that. Not everybody's gifted. I did the same thing, and I never gained a pound. So again, not everybody is built for that kind of, or we got Catalia. Here's another mesomorph in the building. Shout out to Catalia in the building. She probably gains muscle just by thinking about it. Muscle kind of comes on her body. But nevertheless, though, you have to be worried about your resting metabolic rate, and there's only a few ways to do that. One of them, or one of the essential ones, is adding some muscle to your frame. That will go a great way in adding that muscle mass to it. Then the next point here, we also got to manage your stress. So the one thing, so the first point is understand your metabolic rate and incorporate strength training to increase that metabolic rate. Really focus on that. The second thing is you have to control your stress levels, because stress is a major factor in the building of cortisol. And here we get an understanding of what cortisol does. It actually can lead to unhealthy weight gain. So again, cortisol helps you deal with stress, okay? But what it also does is it increases blood sugar for energy. Again, more sugar is in your bloodstream, which, if you're not careful, can make you insulin resistant. The idea is you don't want a lot of blood sugar in your bloodstream, because that's when doctors, when you talk about measuring diabetes, one of the things is, what is your fasted blood sugar? But if you're stressed out all the time, you may find increased blood sugar levels that can certainly have concerns to your doctor. And what it also does is it pauses digestion and other essential functions. Again, the body at that time when you're releasing cortisol, the body is just trying to survive, but it's not going to be functioning normally. And you have a lot of people, whether you have a stressful job or stressful relationships, you constantly have yourself in this chronic stress, and your body is not going to absorb nutrients properly. It's not going to digest foods properly. So if you're worried about, why am I not losing weight, even though I'm doing some things, I'm going to the gym, I'm eating well, but again, what is your stress level? And if you cannot manage that properly, then it can really throw your metabolic system off. All right. So again, impact of chronic stress causes abdominal fat storage, slows the metabolism, making it harder to burn calories. We talk about the metabolism in the first block, your basal metabolic rate. If that slows down or if it lowers, it's going to be harder to lose weight, and more than likely you're going to gain weight in areas where you don't want to. Where you don't want to. So again, managing your cortisol. All right. So again, the role of cortisol. And then we also have, again, what it also does. Again, it disrupts appetite regulation. Okay. So again, it creates these hormonal imbalances. So leptin, which is a hormone, okay, gives that sense of satiety that becomes less effective. So again, that leptin makes you feel full after eating. But if you're constantly stressed, then you're going to probably eat more, which is why a lot of people, when they get stressed, they eat, right? Now, ghrelin is the hunger hormone, increases intense craving. So a lowering in leptin and increasing ghrelin means that you're going to have a harder time controlling your eating habits, leading to overeating. Right. So again, even in your weight loss, if you're stressed out, a lot of people fail on diets because they say, I can't turn away from the table. Yeah, I'm trying to do the right things. But then I was just somewhere and I just ate all the donuts or whatever. Again, your stress levels can really throw your hormones off if you're not managing those properly. Okay. So again, stress it can be a major factor that a lot of people don't look at. And then the last thing is, again, stress can change your food preferences. All right. So craving of comfort foods. Stress makes high fat, sugary, and calorically rich foods more appealing. Why? Because these foods temporarily boost dopamine levels, offering short-term relief. So again, that stress eating, there's a reason why people do it, because it makes them feel good. And feeling good is the opposite of feeling stressed. So the outcome is overeating processed foods leads to weight gain and poor overall health, right? So again, you have to manage your stress and watch those stressors that trigger you to do things, in particular, your eating habits. Now, some people, when they're stressed, they don't eat at all. I'm one of those people. If I'm working on something, if I'm really into something, food is the last thing on my mind. So a lot of times I have to force myself to break away from work in order to get the food in that I need to. But for some other people, they're driven to the table when they're stressed out, and because of that, then they're prone to gain weight. So another factor, managing your stress and your cortisol levels can certainly lead to unhealthy weight gain or hitting plateaus when you're in the process of losing weight. And then the last one in this block that I want to talk about, this will come up. I think it's working. Where is it? There you go. All right. So the last part here, tying in from the idea of stress eating and the foods that you eat. I think for a lot of people, you have to manage and understand what certain foods are doing in your body. So again, the idea of stress eating, you start eating foods that lead to fat loss. And so just to understand this a little bit, all right, so this illustration that I'm showing here, now, again, this what is called the adipocyte, that's just a fat cell, all right? I tried to take some of the scientific language out of it. But here you have a fat cell. And within that fat cell is a triglyceride. Now, if you look at the size of the triglyceride and the opening that you see, the red line going out of the fat cell, it's a small opening. The triglyceride cannot get out of the fat cell unless certain things happen. Now, just to define it, a triglyceride is basically 3 fatty acid molecules surrounded by a glyceride molecule. Now, that glycerin typically comes from blood sugar or sugary products, glucose products. So when that glucose combines, it creates a 3-piece triglyceride, and it cannot escape the fat cell. So again, so this illustration of the activation of lipolysis, how do you burn body fat? A few things have to happen. And again, I'm going to try to take a lot of the science out of it, but this was the simplest scientific explanation I can find, at least in diagram form, right? If you want to lose body fat, you have to break down the triglycerides that are in your fat cells. So the illustration of activation of lipolysis, which is the breaking down the body fat in a fat cell, induced by high, again, this is a hormone, epinephrine, and low insulin, i.e., sugar. So again, when there's low blood sugar in the body, there is low insulin. When there's high sugar levels in the body, that is spiked by eating sugary foods like breads and unprocessed foods, or we say processed foods and grains, sugary products, that raises your insulin level, right? So again, so if you want to introduce lipolysis or the breaking down of triglycerin, you got to keep your blood sugar low by eating foods that are low in overall blood sugar, right? So again, when that happens, the epinephrine binds with beta androgenetic receptors in the cell membrane of the adipocyte, which is the fat cell, which causes CAMP, which is cyclic adenosine monophosphates. All right, it's a fancy term, but basically it is a signal agent in the cell. It tells the cells what to do. Now, that same agent, that CAMP, is also tied to adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy and electricity system that the body runs on. So again, it's a byproduct of the ATP in your body, but it signals in your body to do certain things. Now, what is the thing that it tells it to do? So again, understand the situation. You have to be in a relative low blood sugar state in order for this breakdown to start to happen. So once that CAMP signal gets sent out, the CAMP activates protein kinases, which phosphorylate or start to break and thus activate hormone-sensitive lipases in the fat cell. These lipases cleave free fatty acids from their attachment to the glycerol. Again, triglyceride, 3 fatty acids bound together by glycerol. That hormone-sensitive lipase splits that pairing up so that now that acid can be free from the triglyceride, and now it can escape from the fat cell. Okay, so again, free fatty acids from the attachment to the glycerol in the lipid droplet of the fat cell. And then the last thing that happens is when that free fatty acid is released, the free fatty acids and glycerol are then released into the bloodstream. The activity of hormone-sensitive lipase is regulated by the circulation of hormones such as insulin, glucagon, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. Right. So the idea here is again, you have to, if you want to lose body fat, you have to break up that triglyceride. How do you do that? Exercise is certainly one of the ways you do it, but you also have to watch what you eat. As soon as you introduce any outside blood sugars in the body, this whole process turns off and it does not work. So for a lot of people, having a low sugar, low processed food diet is going to be key if you want to lose body fat. And there's no way around that. So again, but unfortunately, a lot of those comfort foods that a lot of people eat have a lot of these agents in them. And so again, person has to be very mindful of that. But if you're constantly running for the junk food, then this whole process just gets turned off. You have to be in this state for some time in order to give that hormone-sensitive lipase time to work to break up these fat cells so you can lose the body fat. All right. Another factor that you have to talk about. So again, I talked about your arrested BMR levels. I talked about your stress levels. Okay. And I talked about how body fat is broken down in the system. You have to be in a low insulin state in order for that to happen. Now, there's another factor that people need to be mindful of when they're trying to lose weight that may or may not be in your control. And that is certain drugs that people are taking contribute to fat gain because it messes with your metabolism, right? I know this firsthand. People who are on antidepressants or mood stabilizers or antipsychotics or diabetes medications, it tends to slow down your metabolism overall. So you can be a lot of things that happen is that you tend to lose
freezing up.
All right. Okay. Hopefully I'm coming back. Am I back?
Yeah.
I'm back. Okay. All right. So that was. So I'm shocked that it let me go an hour into this stream without it freezing up on me. So the fact that I got an hour into the show without it, I'm grateful for that. But a lot of these drugs that people are on are often leading to this fat accumulation because it just messes with your system overall. So again, you have to be mindful. Now, again, some things you can't help. If you're on anti-diabetic medication or whatever, talk to your doctor. But again, I've known a lot of people who've gotten off of those medications by simply eating better and exercising, and especially strength training to get off of those things. I know a lot of people who got off. In fact, I was with a guy last week. Now, he eats carnivore. He doesn't even eat keto diet. We had dinner with him one night. He ate a steak, period. No vegetables, no sides or anything. The guy lost 50 pounds. He was on pre-diabetic medication, got off of all that stuff. Now, again, this is just one person's testimonial, so I'm not endorsing carnivore or keto or anything like that. But what I am saying is that, again, you have to be mindful of what sugars do to the process of breaking down triglycerides. As soon as you introduce in a diet sugars and glucose to your system, that breaking down with that hormone sensitive lipase stops as soon as you introduce sugars into the bloodstream. So you're going to have to counter that by, again, intense exercise or just limiting that intake of that glucose in order for these things to function. But then watch your medications. That they don't, if you're on birth control pills, that can increase your body weight or your ability to lose weight because of those that are in your body. So again, some people certain steroid hormones, they tend to increase body fat on you. So you have to be mindful of that. But again, we understand that certain people, depending on your situation, you may have to be on them, but you should also be working with your doctor to see if there's some sort of plan. If I eat right, if I exercise more, if I gain strength, if I do some things, different, can I get off of these things? These don't have to be permanent for your life, right? But again, I had my mom, again, she was on a lot of psycho drugs, unfortunately, because of her mental conditions. So I saw what those things did to her up close. So I recognize that, again, in certain situations, it can't be helped, but where there is solution, certainly work towards that, and don't just be dependent on your antidepressants, your anti-stress. Again, if you got too much stress in you, the anti-cortisol medications, they tend to slow you down more so than you need to be, which makes exercising, you don't want to exercise and you don't want to eat the right foods. So that throws everything off. So again, watch the medications that you're on as well, but you definitely have to be mindful of that. Okay, starting to wind down here. Now, this is something I want you to introduce because it's the hottest new thing on. I said earlier, when a lot of people focus on weight loss and rapid weight loss, a lot of them will go to different solutions. Amongst other things, they either stop eating, and what they stop eating, they don't put the right foods into their diet. They're not exercising, but then they start to introduce certain works. Now, the hot thing that everyone's talking about right now is these GLP-1 medications, right? Now, the most popular one that everybody talks about is Ozempic. That has become was initially treated for diabetes. Now everyone's taking it for weight loss. Now I know people personally recently who got on that stuff because they wanted to get in shape for a wedding. However, they were too, and I don't want to be too harsh. They did not have the discipline. I will be nicer. They did not have the discipline to stick to a stricter diet and a rugged exercise and strength training program. They would not commit themselves to it. So they tried to take the easy way, and they used these GLP-1s. That was their biggest one, but there's other generic brands of this that's out there that a lot of people go on. And I've seen, and most of them are women. I'll say that. And I've seen what's happened to them once they take this stuff. They do lose weight. But here's the thing. They do not lose body fat. And it is dramatic. They say, yeah, I lost 40 pounds taking this stuff. But you see this loose skin. You see the body fat that's on them, but it's literally hanging off because they burned off all the muscle. Again, they didn't exercise. They didn't go to the gym. They didn't do any strength training. All they know is they heard somebody take these GLP-1s and they lost a lot of weight in a rapid period of time. And then there was like, okay, I'm in a bind here, so I better get on some of this stuff, and they start taking it. So one of the things, what is GLP-1? What does it do? First thing it does is it increases the amount of insulin made by the pancreas. It decreases the amount of excess sugar made by the pancreas. It slows down digestion from the stomach. And then it signals to the brain that you are full after eating. So it lowers your appetite. Okay. But again, in doing so, you're going to be losing muscle faster than you are going to be losing body fat. And so again, I'm not a fan. Well, I certainly wouldn't recommend somebody, definitely, if you want to try to talk to your doctor, I guess, maybe there's a way you can at least know what these things do and then commit yourself to say, hey, if I take this, if I do extra things, if I do work out, if I do strength train, if I do eat better, can I avoid some of those side effects of flabby skin, fatty skin, skinny bodies, but no muscle tone, no definition, nothing. It's just, they just were looking for a number and just to get into that wedding dress, and that was it. So again, I'm not a fan of these products. But again, but a lot of people now, this is the hot thing that everybody's jumping on these things, to weight loss. So I think there's some precautions that you definitely need to be taking if you're going to be on these things. So just to wrap up my piece, and then we can certainly bring Coach back into it. First of all, thank you for giving me the time to kind of run through this. But I'm going to certainly summarize this so we can come back and just have a general conversation on this. But bottom line, in terms of weight loss. So again, the idea, if you want, again, effective weight loss, let's say if you come to a plateau in your weight loss journey or your body fat loss journey, certain things that you have to look at. One, no drastic extremes. Look to lose no more than 1 to 2 pounds per week. If I hear somebody say they lost 10 pounds in a week, they're doing something wrong, or they're doing something short term, or they're doing something to the body that's causing more harm in the long run than good. Slow but steady wins the race here. Rapid weight loss always leads to rapid weight gain. And so you have to be mindful of that. And the weight that you gain will be more body fat than it was before you started. Work on increasing your basal or resting metabolic rate. Increase your lean body fat mass. Yes, you need to do some strength training with some weights. Yes, increase lean body mass. Digest foods and drinks that increase your body, your metabolism. Say caffeinated drinks, green tea. They help to boost your resting body metabolic rate. Increase your cardio. But you have to, understand what your BMR is. Understand. So if your BMR is 2,500 calories, I wouldn't dip my overall calories no more than 2,000 or under 500 less than where I'm at. I wouldn't do any drastic. I wouldn't cut my calories in half. You start with a moderate amount of caloric deficit. But again, whatever that is, either increase your caloric output also, but then watch what you eat also. So again, the next one, what it is that you're eating. Watch what you eat. Again, avoid sugars, starches, comfort, and processed foods. Be mindful of the medications that you are taking and their possible side effects. Third, eat more protein and fibrous fruits and vegetables. Like I said earlier, I don't know anybody who's ever gained weight from eating too many fruits and vegetables. Never met a person in my life who did that. Because again, those fruits and vegetables are generally fibrous in nature, which actually your body has to metabolize those things. It takes more to burn some of these foods than it is the calories that you're getting from these foods. If you ate a stalk of celery, it's only about 15 calories, but your body may burn 20, 30 calories just trying to break down that cellulose structure and digest it than it was to eat it. So again, be mindful of that. Fruits and vegetables in your diet, eat more proteins. Again, carbs are conditional. Starchy carbs and sugars, conditional. If you need them, if you're expending a lot of energy, then eat them. If you're not, then lay off. And then lastly, my advice would be don't eat when you're starving. You want to eat throughout the day when you're not hungry. But if you're starving, you're going to eat faster than you ought to. You're going to eat more than you ought to. And then I don't know about you, if I eat faster than I ought to and more than I ought to, that itis starts to kick in. And then my body is just trying to digest all that food. So I get a little lightheaded, that post eating thing kicks in, and you can't really do a whole lot after that. So again, watch what you eat. And then the last point, and I'll wrap this up. The last point is, again, you got to manage your stress. Your stress levels, if you don't watch them, they throw everything off. You need to get more sleep, more rest, vacation more. You need to get out of your thing. Now, again, I'm as guilty of that as anybody, because everybody knows how I be working, how I be grinding here. So I need to take my own advice in this more so than anybody else. I definitely need more sleep every night, but I'm a grinder. So, so that's something that I need to be mindful of. Keep away from news, social media outlets, and other things that, again, sap your energy. Things that stress you out, try to avoid that. Get away from, avoid people who stress your energy. That was the last point. Work on building healthy relationships with friends and family. Again, the people who stress you out, you might need to get rid of those people because they're not adding value. And if they're just adding stress to your life, then that's throwing you out of whack. So again, just in summary, understand what your basal metabolic rate is and work with that. That's your baseline, which you take every other action. Understand that process. Second, manage what you eat, especially when it comes to sugars. Lastly, manage your stress. Because if you don't, that's also going to throw off your metabolism. And the last thing, if I was to add a fourth thing, watch medications. Be mindful of the side effects of those medications and those things that could possibly stall any progress that you might have made. Yeah, you might have gained or lost 10 pounds in a couple of weeks, but will it be sustained over time? Can you sustain it over time? Or will you run back to, because the situation happens because you're stressed out, are you going to go back to the comfort foods and the things that stress you out? If you're trying to quit smoking or whatever, are you going to go back to it once things start to stress you out? So these are things that you have to keep in mind in this whole process. All right. So again, focus on your health. Focus on a healthy body composition. Focus on having a level of fitness that you need to function in the world that you operate in. And I think that's a much more balanced mindset and way to look at it than just a crash diet or taking some drug that's going to give you rapid weight loss and wreck your body metabolism later on. Those I think are certainly more reasonable approaches to this process. So again, I said a lot in this time, and again, I want to thank Coach for being patient. Certainly, as I shared that information, and I will turn it back over to you if you want to comment on anything that was said. And we can either certainly have a conversation or start to close the show down. But again, I just appreciate your patience with me here.
No, man, listen, just listening to you, man, I understand the passion, and it's great information, and the fact that you're actually striving in this right now. Listen, there wasn't nothing too much for me to say during that time, and just the way you laid it out, there's going to be a lot of good information. I hope somebody can utilize the information and be more attentive in their weight control process, not necessarily losing weight, but weight management, weight control. And it's really, I think we uh, tied into it. Last week definitely ties into this week because now when you go shopping, just read the labels to see what the calories are. And those calories are per portion of that item that you purchase. Not
Absolutely.
if you get a can of pork and beans, the whole can is not 160
I
ounces.
mean, I'm not
I
supposed to eat the
mean,
whole can of pork
calories.
and beans.
No, the whole can is probably, it may be three portions of a 600 calories. So if you eat the whole can, that's 1,800 calories. So just be mindful that calories are always based off the portion of food that you eat. So if you eating a potato chip bag, it might say 8 potato chips is the portion. That means you got to eat the portion for the calories, then put the bag away.
And
And
I remember the ad for Lay's. They used to have this ad that used to say nobody can eat just one. Well, I think no one can eat just eight. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right. So
So that's really that should have been an ad. 8 chips is
no,
too little for most people.
but if you're one of those people who think you might want to take your weight gain, I mean your weight management seriously, then if you learn to count the calories, then I think you'll be okay. And understand, not all calories are good calories. You
That's right.
can't eat a lot of empty calories, and that's what we tend to do in our modern day world of America. We eat a lot of empty calories. People sort of dismiss fruits and raw vegetables. I think we just overlook those. If it's not cooked, then I don't see many people eating a green pepper or a tomato just just to fulfill those calories and for the health factor. But yeah, I don't know, man. As we age, you slow down. You stop moving. It used to be when you didn't go home to after 8. Now, when you get off work, the first place you going is home. You're trying to get home, so your movement is less and less. But I don't know, man. Like I said, man, we old guys, man. I would hope that young men and women just sort of utilize the information to sort of be more intentional about, their health for long term. Because once you develop those practices early, when your body is more capable and all of your lipids and your cholesterol levels and sugar levels and heart rate levels are functioning at their highest, when you start really focusing on weight management, calorie management, plays big dividend long run. I was
Absolutely.
always, again, I used to have this fear of getting fat. Uh, and I've told young people, hey, you don't want to get fat. And a lot of times it was a shock to their system because they never heard somebody just say it. But I used to let them know, you'll thank me 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. You may not see it. It's a ugly truth. But in my experience in helping people sort of gain self-confidence, self-motivation, just I always treat it like the military. The military, when you go into the military, they do not wait for you to get used to the military. You're thrown right into the fire. From day one, you're doing push-ups, sit-ups, running 4 or 5 miles. Day one. When they wake you up that next morning at 4 a.m., you would have done more by 9 o'clock than most people have done all day. You've done ran, exercise, cleaned up the whole barracks, buffed, showered, ate breakfast, and then formation at 9 o'clock. Probably getting ready to do another 50 push-ups. And in my experience in helping, the people that I work with, I sort of took that approach. And, the results are very favorable. And I'll shut up. I would love to see the we used to get charts when I was working for this one company on the clients that we serve. They would compare if me, you, Mr. Bennett, Brother David, Brother Sparta, we all had our own group in our own schools. and you had a group, everybody had their group of 60 young men, right? Every other once a month we would all come together, and then they would go down. How many students do you got participating? We 2 months into the program. I have 60, you might have 35. Somebody else might have 25, 15, right? They compare you on that level. Then they'll say, then they go by the quarter. Okay, who has improved in attendance, behavior, academics, all of those things. Then they measuring you on that level. How many got parental participation? So we would always see the numbers of how we measured against each other. And people have questioned my method. People who couldn't do how I did it would always question the method initially. But then when they would go see the results, they be like, can't nobody do it like that.
Right.
You want to, you know what I'm saying? I've had people question me several times, but when they go look at the black and white of the engagement, the improvement, oh, he's in the top two.
Yeah.
He's in the top one or two. But having the information, being able to just bring it, to the forefront and having real conversations about weight, because weight is one of those very touchy subjects to a lot of people who may have experienced it, being overweight for a long time. I never understood the thing about gaining weight. I never understood that because I always, I look at high school pictures like, yeah, then I look at 25 years, you're like, oh man, okay, you gain weight by default. And that's why when I understood that, I learned that about playing sports, but I learned it in in my home ec class. And then we had a parent planhood class. So it taught you about so much stuff.
Mhm.
I've always been conscious of me gaining too much weight. I stayed active. I ate, healthy for the most part. I didn't do a lot of drinking or smoking. I never smoked. Um, I've always played, like I said, play ball even after work. Going ride a bike. I keep a bike. I got a bike now, a 10 speed, actually 10 speed or some type of mountain bike, jogging. So it's very important. And then once I got older, the VA, of course, started focusing my attention on the labels and calories. And my calorie portion was right about 2,600
Mhm.
also. So yeah, it's just unique, and hopefully somebody can take the information and use.
Right. Which is again that 2,500. That's a decent amount of food. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not you're not starving yourself.
Mm-mm.
And again, depending on the foods that you eat, there's also something called food density. So again, you have like a big salad, or especially if you eat in a salad, not just with lettuce, but if you eat a salad like with spinach or collard greens or turnip green, I mean, really dense fibrous things, you could be eating a lot of food, but not consuming a lot of calories.
Yes.
Whereas you take like a McDonald's hamburger or something like that, that can it's a much more calorically dense, and so again, it's no one's saying to starve yourselves, but creating that caloric deficit or that need. Now if you're going to be also about the process of building muscle, you may in some instances have to eat more food, more protein. Now again, there's the suggestions on protein. Look, it's all over the place. The thing I keep coming back to, if I read the science, I'll read this, that, or whatever, I typically settle on 1 gram per pound if you want to build weight. So if you're 150 pounds, try to get in 150 grams of protein, split it out over 4 or 5 meals a day to try to get that extra protein in. But, some people say zero point 0.8 per gram or whatever. And like I said, the numbers are all over the place. So that's why I don't get too specific with the recommendations. But I'm just saying, but for a lot of people, you may have to increase your caloric intake when you need to if your goal is to want to build muscle. that is certainly something that you're going to need to do. Now, I can tell you, so on average, women need about 1,600 to 2,400 calories, depending on factors like age, activity level, and overall health. But also your side. Look, if you're like 5'10" Amazon, weighing 160 pounds, lean, you're probably going to need more food than a size 1 or 2, 115-pound woman. So again, you have to factor all of that in when you talk about how much food you're going to be consuming. And then there was a comment, shout out to the White School Podcast, who came in through tonight. She was saying, is some of the things that I'm saying, is it the foundation for a keto diet? Now, again, I don't necessarily like to use the word diet, period, because diets generally is a short-term fix. A lot of people may go to a keto diet or carnivore diet or a Mediterranean diet or veggie diet or intermittent fasting or whatever for short-term gains. But the idea here is a lifestyle, something that you can maintain and stick to for a lifestyle. A lot of problems with the keto crowd or even the carnivore crowd. You got to be mindful what you're not getting in your diet. If you're not getting sufficient nutrients, if you're not getting fiber, and you're going to need fiber for a lot of reasons. One is to process all that meat that you're eating. You need fiber to help your body pass and have a healthy bowel movement. So you need fiber, and the healthiest places for fiber is generally from fruits and vegetables and maybe some nuts. But if you're not going to have that, then you're going to need to have some sort of supplements. Take some multivitamins, something that something that's going to help deal with those deficits that might be in your diet because you're not consuming certain foods. If you're extremely active, like I said, we're getting ready for football season, so you got these guys training outside in 90-degree weather. Yeah, they're probably going to need some carbs, and in a lot of cases, they're probably going to need some simple carbs because you're in there sweating it off as much as you burning it in. I mean, a lot of times it used to be in training camp, coach, you would come into training camp and make 10 to 15 pounds above your ideal weight, and you would work off that weight in training camp to get to your playing weight by the beginning of the season. Now they want you coming into camp in shape already, which I don't think is a good idea, but that's another discussion. But the idea here is that, you never want to marry yourself to a quote unquote diet. You want whole, just as I talked about last week, try to eat as many foods as you can with one ingredient in them, right? So steak or chicken or beef or whatever it is, if you're vegetarian, some lentils, one ingredient. Vegetables and fruits, one ingredient. If you do want something, brown rice or a baked potato or sweet potato, one ingredient. Simple whole foods versus processed foods. But you don't necessarily want to marry yourself to a particular diet strategy because, again, can you maintain it for the long haul? Even if you had success with it, can you maintain it for the long haul? And that, that's really going to be a fact. So I'm talking about a healthy way of living, not just a diet strategy. And I think if people look at it more holistically like that, like I have an 80-20 rule. I've said this many times before. If you're eating healthy and good 5-6 days a week, man, enjoy your weekend. Go out with your wife, have a nice dinner. You want some little dessert on top of that? Yeah, have some dessert with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's Thanksgiving, man. Enjoy your holiday with your family. Have some of those home-baked cookies. There's nothing wrong with that. But you got to get back on your diet when it's time to get back on your diet. A lot of people, I said this earlier today, a lot of people like to live in these extremes. They got to be on all the time. So they're very anal about what they eat, regardless of the occasion. They're anal at Thanksgiving. They're anal at Christmas time. They're anal when they're out on their birthday, on the anniversary, their wife's anniversary. It's like, oh, you really shouldn't eat that. Or can you order this? Can I order this and remove the cheese and remove this and remove that? I just want the plain chicken breast. Again, I don't think that's healthy long term. But then there's some people who have no control over their eating at all. And I think either extreme, I think you're limiting yourselves. But I think food brings people together to break bread together in fellowship and not worry so much about the menu. But if you were taking care of business, Monday through Friday, then you should be able to enjoy Saturday night with your friends and go to the movies and have and have a burger or a hot dog or some popcorn or whatever it is or some goobers. You should be able to do that. The question is, can you get back on your regular diet on Monday? So again, balance. But you have to have that. But some people, they're so obsessed and they don't. And so health can be in and of itself a prison. Kateri's talking about we're bodybuilders, but I've seen bodybuilders. It's an obsession. In many ways, it's a prison. So it's almost like the reverse of the anorexia. They call it the big Xria, where they live in an extreme. Some of these people also, not all of them, but a lot of them do. And so that's not health. That's not a healthy approach either. And so I want people to, again, live a balanced life, enjoy the life. Like I said, we lost 4 icons, regardless of what you felt about them. Malcolm Jamal Warner, Frank Mangione, the guy from Black Sabbath, the singer. We lost him. We lost Hulk Hogan. Again, you don't know the days that you have. Yes, you need to take care of your health, but also you need to enjoy your life at the same time. Ozzy Osbourne was the last one that we lost. So again, so in all of this, don't take anything and just run with it willy-nilly and say, okay, I got to do this. Make some simple decisions. Get some knowledge and some information. And then make wise choices, one step at a time. And I think you'll live a much more better and fulfilling life when you do that. But I think that's really all I want to say tonight. Yes, Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, I think that's all I really want to say tonight, Coach. And certainly one thing we talked about, we don't want to drag on shows too long. If we put a bow on this thing, I say let's just put a bow and just wrap it up. So I will. I think my part is ended. If you want to certainly give in your closing comments as we start to wrap up the show, and we can shut this thing down.
No, man. Listen, man. It's always great information, man. You know, the fact that we decided to create a space to just share information that's meaningful and get away from the regular mundane YouTube rhetoric is cool. So. Yeah, man. Hopefully, listen, if you're in the chat, man, you know somebody who may need need the information, man, invite them to watch the show, man. Tell them to subscribe because we got more good topics coming, man, to better ourselves and to better those who want to be better. So the information is going to be shared. Again, we just 2 bald guys just giving out information. We don't claim to be professionals at it. We are just 2 people. And I know Mr. Bennett, he's passionate about what he does, and he's going to be passionate about what he presents, to the world, man. So, yeah, I'm just going to keep on providing the information. And listen, Brother Bennett, man, you ever need a break, man? I know you need a lot, man. Just, tell me, hey, you can take a break, man. Take you some water breaks, man. Don't push yourself. You already been doing that. You ain't no good to nobody if you ain't good to yourself. So, yeah. y'all listen. It's summer, man.
Listen, I'm looking forward to. I got a massage. I got a deep tissue massage coming up, and I can't wait to work all this out. So again, I encourage people also. Again, in terms of how you lower your stress levels, massages, deep tissue massage, ice bath, whatever you guys got to do. Take care of your body, lower that stress level on yourself, and be good to yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Those are very useful things that can certainly help you with that as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But
no, man, great show, man. Shoot, that's enough right there, man.
Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for Catellia, for Pete, who surely joined the show tonight. I know he's surely in the back. We appreciate you guys being with us tonight. Certainly tune in for the rest of the week. Saturday on the Hangout show. I don't have the topics in front of me right now, what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, the Hangout on Saturday is going to be on. Sunday, the gray area will be on. Yes, I will be on, even though I'm flying out 6 a.m. Monday morning. I will be in town. for the gray area, and then I'll be shuffling off, and then we'll see what's going on Tuesday night. I may or may not join. I know I joined the show late this last week, but certainly just stay tuned. I think all the shows are already posted on the Sparta HQ Network, so you can see the upcoming show content. Make sure you share the content and dates with other people, and help us with this platform. But for myself, Mr. Bennett, for the coach, as always in the building, we're two ball guys with our own bald opinions on the Sparta HQ Network. This has been Next Gen Training. For the rest of you, take care of yourselves. God bless. We'll see you next week. Good night.